Hey everybody, Dave Arnold here. It's great to see you. This is day 3 of Holy Week. It is Tuesday afternoon, and I'm coming live from the great state of Michigan. And so, as you know, yesterday I shared some lessons from the Holy Week leading up to Easter, because I'm doing a personal study each day, following the gospel narratives as we prepare ourselves for Resurrection Sunday coming up in a few days. So today is the third day of the Passover week. It started on Sunday when Jesus entered into the city of Jerusalem on a donkey. That was in John chapter 12 and other the gospel accounts. And that was the first day of Passover. And then we talked a little bit about yesterday about the second day. Today is the third day, the day 3 of the Passover. So 3 things happen. Number 1 is in the morning, Jesus and his disciples leave Bethany, which is a little village outside of Jerusalem, and they travel into the city. And as they're traveling, they go past the fig tree that Jesus had cursed the day before. And sure enough, Peter notices that it is indeed withering or withered. It's completely, absolutely devoid of any fruit or any buds for that matter. And Jesus takes an opportunity to talk about faith and the importance of faith in that time as they're going into Jerusalem as they pass that tree. So that's in Mark chapter 11, verse 20. Second thing that happens is they go into the temple, which they do every day of Passover. Of course, he's teaching, he's dealing with the questions of the Pharisees and so forth. And then after that, they go to the Mount of Olives, which is just outside of the city, where you can look into the city of Jerusalem. It's a beautiful area. I've been there myself. My wife and I had the great privilege of going to the Holy Land and going to the Mount of Olives. And as they're there and they're probably listening to all the noise of the city because it was very crowded for Passover, Jesus takes an opportunity to talk about the end times. In fact, he focuses on 3 things: the last days, that is the end times, his imminent return, that he is coming back, and the destruction of Jerusalem, which will take place in 70 AD by the Romans. And so it's a quite extensive discourse. And the third thing that happens is Judas, right after that, or sometime during his Jesus' teaching, sneaks off and goes to the Sanhedrin, who are some of the leaders of the people of Israel, who are trying to trap Jesus like the Pharisees, and goes to them and says, I want to hand Jesus over to you. How much will you give me? And of course, they settle on 30 pieces of silver. So this takes place on Tuesday. Today's Tuesday. This takes place on Tuesday. So I think there's 2 lessons here that I want to share. Number 1 is that of hope and comfort. Even though Passover, that time, especially for Jesus, is a very troublesome time, he is wrestling and grieving within himself because he knows that the cross is coming. He knows he has to face the most horrific thing that a man could face, which is execution on a cross. And that was very heavy upon him. But he also knows, because he's the Son of God, that he's coming back. He knows this is the only way to rescue sinners from death and from hell and from the devil. And so he takes the opportunity to share that with his disciples, the hope and that which is to come when he returns. And he says, my word shall never pass away. That's in Matthew 24, verse 35. And the second lesson is that of trials, that while we live in this world, in between the resurrection and that is the resurrection to come, that when Christ comes back, there's going to be trials. The whole time, or during the time that Jesus is teaching his disciples, talking about his return and teaching them in parables, Judas sneaks off to go and betray him. So you see, Satan is at work in the midst of Holy Week. He's working behind the scenes to try to plot to destroy Jesus. Of course, Jesus will destroy him. But there's a lesson. The lesson is that we need to be on our guard. We live in a dark world, a world that is is very dominated by evil, and we have to be watchful of our hearts and watch and guard our minds and our thoughts. And so, as we go further or go more into Holy Week, let us keep these two lessons in mind. Okay, that Jesus is preparing his disciples for his return and what is to come in the end times, and also the darkness that is upon the land that the devil is working. So I hope that encourages you today, and we'll see you tomorrow for another lesson. Take care. God bless.